Hey guys, welcome to Theory Forge, episode 23. I'm going to pass it off to our prompter for the night, Phantom X.
Thank you, and welcome everyone to Theory Forge Friday. Have a great group, great show, lot to talk about. Before we get to our topics, though, we have a special guest, Mr. Andron. Not your first time with us, I don't believe.
I got to do
Hey,
the
Dan.
very first show you guys did. I was on the very first Theory Forge show.
Yeah.
Been doing pretty well.
Anything new going on?
Well, not as far as like EverQuest related projects go. Some of those I've got, started and in the can. But just based on what's going on as far as the level of interest and buzz and things like that. I'm sort of holding that stuff right now. Pending maybe some more buzz about EQN. And possibly some sort of an alpha on that, maybe, or you understand. I could. There's some of this that I could, finish up and release now, but there's just not a whole lot of traffic going on right now, in the forums and whatnot. So I have been pretty busy with unrelated projects and whatnot, and I've also been, it's that time of in Washington State. It's that time of year where it rains all the time, and I've had flu and all that kind of stuff I've been dealing with. Had two ear infections in a row, that had me pretty messed up for a little while. I actually got pretty worried about that. The second one felt like it was going to blow my eardrum, which would be bad, in my business, but made it through that. So at any rate.
So what I'm hearing is if anyone from Daybreak is here, they need to speed up to EverQuest Next so we can hear some more of your wonderful pieces.
There is stuff that I have in the works, but that's basically what I've done with it for now. Is just sort of backburnered it for right now.
Awesome. Well, what we are going to start off with, obviously, I think the big news that came this week that everyone at this point is aware of is the transition, the acquisition of SOE No More. Now Daybreak Games. It kind of came out of nowhere. A lot to talk about with this, but everyone here, I just want to know your first impressions. When I saw that, I was kind of shocked, especially with who bought them out. Not having a lot of gaming in their businesses, but it's pretty open-end topic. I just want to hear your guys' thoughts, what you think about all of this, any of it.
Well, I guess I'll start off. There's so much potential in an opportunity like this, which it is an opportunity and potentially, a loss. I don't think that any of us really have the insight or information that we need to make those kinds of assumptions. But either way, I tend to be an optimistic person, and I'm hoping for this to kind of give them the opportunity to be maybe more independent. I don't know what Sony was like as far as. Apparently, I'm quiet. Hold on one second. I don't know what Sony was like as like a mother company or a father company, or I don't know if they were constantly on their butts about getting deadlines and whatnot, but it seemed like they were going at their own pace, and that's a good thing for a business, especially one with such a passionate team like with SOE and the people who are making the great stuff over there. So my question, I think I have more questions than opinions. Like my questions would be, like my biggest question would be, I wonder how they feel that how much potential freedom that they have where they are now with Daybreak, with the investor company that they have that has bought them out over when they were at Sony, and do they think that opportunity is going to give them more freedom in their creativity when creating EverQuest Next?
Yes, actually, when I've been thinking about it so much. I've been talking about this subject so much all week in Dead Feature Rant and Live Feature Review. and just in general with everybody in all the different discussion areas. Honestly, the initial reaction wasn't necessarily a good or a bad so much as it's going to make things completely different as we go forward. The fact that SOE Live was put on hiatus, or what used to be SOE Live, it's a little disappointing, but at the same time, that doesn't mean it isn't necessarily going to happen. They might just do it in a different way, in a different capacity, at a different location, and that would be totally, fine. It would make a lot more sense. But it's basically, at the moment, we've got something that we're going to be doing, a player organized sort of thing that actually Brash and Roshan and some other folks are pitching into. Definitely check that out on the forums. Or not on the forums, on the Facebook, actually. I'll post a link to it a little bit later. But kind of getting back to the subject, it was after kind of discussing a little, after hearing the decision that they're going to be making games for Xbox now, and it's going to be getting to different platforms, I actually got really optimistic about that. That means that they truly are Daybreak Games, LLC, an independent game company that is privately funded by their giant investment overlords. But, it's I see a lot of good stuff coming out of the potential for not only their stuff to get integration with some of the other Columbus Nova stuff, better web security, better servers, better data migration, so there's less errors when they're working on projects, all sorts of stuff that comes from that. Music, I mean, they own Rhapsody, so that could just be straight up integrated into the games. Beyond that, I could also see them leveraging what SOE was doing in different ways with Daybreak, having them kind of ramp up the publishing again for other companies, because they've kind of dropped off with the publishing. It's just DCUO and Dragon's Prophet are the only outside IPs that they've got right now. So that could be something they go for. The game security. The security is a big thing. Getting the echo. The security is a big thing. They have a giant free-to-play game with massive numbers of people playing it at a time, and they're able to pretty effectively defeat cheaters and hackers, and that's not something to shake a stick at. That's a big deal. They have an engine that can handle that many people, and it's getting better in so many different ways, both a voxel version and a non-voxel version. So I could see a lot of that stuff potentially being licensed out, or potentially having third parties working with them directly to make possibly, standalone single player games, or possibly various forms of multiplayer game. That's all the sorts of stuff that I could see coming out of it, and potentially much, much more. But that's kind of where I'm going to stop, because literally I have talked about this enough that I could go for a while.
Yeah, my thoughts have been a mixed bag a little bit, because, I feel like, these type of situations, they are always going to bring some bad and some good. I'm being an optimist. I'm really optimistic that, so many, I don't know how to say it, so many benefits can come of this that we're really holding back EverQuest Next, I guess, in ways, and other games that they're working on. Obviously, the budget and the staff has been, they've had to dig deep lately, having to lose certain people and let go of people because of, budget and stuff, having to cut people. So I'm hoping that maybe they can pull back some of the people that they didn't want to let go that were working on the project, and maybe accelerate the process of getting some of these games out with more resources and something like that. But, you're always going to get maybe some negatives. I hope there's not too many negatives. I hope they don't... From what it looked like when I read the company profile kind of and checked out their website and saw the companies that they have, Columbus Nova, it didn't seem like they had anything related to games. So I don't feel like it's the type of company that's going to come in and say, hey, we know how to do this better than you do. So I feel like, almost kind of like what Neuro was saying, they're their own company now. As an LLC, they're going to get a lot more freedom maybe than Sony, because Sony, has... working with the PlayStation, they understand the game market already, so they probably had a lot of, darker overlords than they probably currently do now. So that's why I think it's going to be mostly good. There will probably be some negatives. Obviously, the one negative that's screaming to everybody right now is the SOE Live on hiatus, which, really bums me out. But it's they do say hiatus, so it's not officially gone, but we just don't know when it's going to come or the time frame. So kind of bummed, but at the same time, we have a lot to look forward to, hopefully. So I'm open to seeing what news they release about their changes, with the staff, what they do in the next couple weeks. So.
What about you, Andorin? What is I don't know how much you've been invested, like research wise. I mean, we've all been talking about this in a Theory Forge chat, but like, what's your take on this whole thing?
When they first announced it, it was interesting for me because I still remember the days, before it was SOE, when it was Verant, and when it went to SOE. But it's been a long time since then, and a fair number of hours of my life were spent, with games that SOE, developed and published, and so it was it was a little strange. There's part of me that is pretty hopeful. It's going to be interesting to see. One of the senses that I had, I caught the last Landmark Live, and I don't know if anybody else, picked up on this or noticed this. It seemed to me like there's going to be a lot more vocal focus on EverQuest Next. Whereas before they would talk more in terms of, we're going to do this and that, and the other thing for Landmark, and a lot less about EverQuest Next. Now there seems to be, a lot of focus on, yes, we're going to still be doing things for Landmark, but the impression that I got was that most of the resources, this year we're going to go towards development for EverQuest Next, and that systems may, wind up in Landmark that are being tried already in EverQuest Next, kind of going the other direction from what it's been up to this point.
My first thought when I saw this is looking at, well, who bought them? And I think the thing that sticks out to me is that it wasn't a gaming company. It's an investment firm. And that's where I think some of the concern lies in. And we don't know what their role will be. Are they just the money overlords that hands off, you either make money or don't, you make changes, or we step in, but we're not going to change your direction. That's like my first concern, because you could have positives there too, right? I mean, their goal is to make money, so presumably they'll throw money at them to try to make money. But then the direction, where do they take it from there? And that's where the other sort of, one thing that I've never wanted, I've been waiting for it Next for was it 2010 when it first was mentioned in the anniversary book? And the idea of putting something on mobile or web development is something that I worry about with this, just based off the companies they have. When you look at them, a lot of data driven stuff, web stuff, app stuff, and I see a focus of them shifting to, and I think Denton Smed, he said something like there was a tweet about doing mobile games, right? So we also don't know the separation of how much of this is going to be future games, how much is going to alter their current games.
Mobile's a broad term. That could also just be talking about high performance stuff. NVIDIA Shield tablet, FreeVI Flight Deck. Those are the only two tablets I know of right now that are actually powerful enough that you can play some good quality games on them and stream to Twitch from a tablet. So the more powerful mobile devices are definitely on the way. I would imagine the H1Z1 and PlanetSide 2 version of the Forge Light engine probably would be able to run on one of those devices.
Yeah, that's interesting that you bring up the engine, because when I look at this too, that's one unique feature about Sony, that between having the Forge Light engine and now working on this new, voxel destructible terrain engine that they have, that's a lot of overhead and R&D that they're doing, and it's, the company that's coming in, I'm sure, is a big investment company. They're paying attention to top dollar, to some extent. They're going to be looking at assets and looking at how they can turn assets into money. And when you look at the assets that SOE has, between just purely what their employees are that have experience in the game industry, their actual assets as far as game things are all in the MMO industry. They're all, and the Forge Light and this new tech they're creating for Landmark and EverQuest Next, these are the real strong assets that they have, in my opinion, as a product. So I look at that as being a sign that it won't curve too much to mobile. But at the same time, with the experience and the connections that this company brings, I almost expect to see more interconnection between games that are typically what we experience as, this is a PC game and, we play. There's going to be more of this change to cross-platform of things that are native to the PS4, the Xbox One, and the PC. But when I look at the mobile department of it, I feel like, one thing that I've always thought of when I was in school for game design a couple of years ago, or a few years ago, we had different assignments, and one of them was to find a way to connect two types of gaming platforms. And one of the ideas we had was to, take a game like an MMO and have mini games that help you unlock things for your character or other things that were mobile app games. And it was tied together, so you would be doing a different game on your mobile phone, but it would be tied to the franchise, kind of like, it's almost like what WoW has done with their mobile armory thing, but actually, injecting some mini games and stuff like that into actually unlocking things for your persistent world game. So I think there's a lot of uncharted territory that can be, tested with these things that, has potential profit and can, because who wouldn't, if you're playing an MMO and you're paying, $15 sub a month or whatever it is, and they're like, oh, hey, download this app for $3, and it gives you all these things, that's a guaranteed, I'll buy it $3, $5, whatever. So it's things like that, I think.
Let me
go ahead.
Ask you this. Let me ask you this. Do you think they might have plans for a spin-off type of thing, almost like a Hearthstone, only based in EQN type of situation for mobile?
I don't know. I would love to see things that do those kind of little mini games that could be in a persistent world. Because if you think, we've been talking a lot over the past year about VR, augmented reality, developing this really immersive replication of a world. Even though it's a fantasy environment, they want to give you more things to do that are reflective of what you can do in real life. So I think, maybe having, for me, I'll just talk from a lore side from just one quick moment. As a lore fanatic, I would love to see a mobile app that's got a library of lore, and I can log out with my character in a library, and when I'm offline, I can access the mobile app, and because my character was in a library when I left, I can just read through books like that and just create this really, there's so many cool things you could do with it. It would be really fun, but that's one example, and I'm sure Hearthstone card games, little gambling games and stuff like that. There's a lot of games that have done that. WoW started injecting the Pokemon, the gotta catch 'em all battle pets thing, which is cool, and you could have things like that on a mobile app. So, there's definitely so much uncharted territory. So, but anyways, I'll stop talking. That's
I think that EverQuest Next is already doing that, if I'm not mistaken, right? They created that mobile app where I remember you were doing things, you were playing mini games almost like Candy Crush type games. I don't know if copyright, whatever. They were playing games like they were kind of like Candy Crush based, or similar to those kinds of very basic yet addicting game styles. And when you would complete those things, there was this quest progression, and by doing those things, you were unlocking codes for Landmark, things like the whatever, I don't remember what the items were, the Gemseeker's brooch, the lunar anklets, etc. So they've already showed that there is interest. I don't know, obviously lots of things have changed since the last time that I heard them promoting that app, but I think that that's something that they've already showed interest in, and I don't know if they're just going to throw it out the window or continue with it. But I did want to talk about something that somebody else brought up before. Neuro said it. I've seen it in chat. I think Vel and Andorin were just talking about it a little bit too. I am not excited for... Well, okay, let me just say this, PC Master Race. But besides that, I am not excited for them to potentially start focusing on consoles. I'm not saying that it's not a great idea for console and PC-based companies to start to merge together and work together to make these cross-platform games, but it still feels like I don't feel like it's going to be as coherent as we would hope, and I think that it might take away from some gameplay, and they might have to make some sacrifices that I'm not really ready to spiritually allow, because I really have such high hopes for EverQuest Next, and I think that if they were to consider making, having any connection to consoles, I think that it would only take away from how amazing EverQuest Next could be.
Don't worry, and here's why.
Okay.
PC is always going to be their major priority. PC first, and then they'll get the rest. We've already seen that. It's been this long, and we're just now finally entering the PlayStation 4 beta for PS4, the PlanetSide 2 beta for PS4. But anyway, you know what I mean. So it's something that after they've got the production pipeline for getting one Forge Light engine game onto PS4, that'll make it easier to set up the production pipeline to do the same thing for the Xbox. Once they've got both of those established, it's a much more streamlined process to get the rest of the games to the consoles. So it's going to be a longer process. Eventually they will be able to catch up. Yeah, I know. Everybody take a drink. It's definitely something where it'll be a lot easier if they go that route rather than just trying to bang their heads on the console thing, immediately, and that would actually start to impact the rest of the stuff they're doing. I don't think that's the route they're going. I'm pretty sure they're going to stay the course with getting the PlanetSide 2 on PS4 first, and then going most likely H1Z1 next, because that's, the voxel engine is probably going to need a lot more optimization before the consoles really be able to handle it.
One thing to remember too, like now that we're getting into the modern age and graphics are going crazy, in games, like there's not a large portion of people out there that, have a PC and a PlayStation and an Xbox. There's not people that have every console, and typically, if you have a really nice gaming PC, you probably don't have a console because, it's just so expensive to keep up with things. If you can play it on a PC, why own both? So my point in that is that, if you're only making PC games, how much of the market are you closing out? Because some people, the way PlayStations and Xbox Ones are developing, they're almost in this, they're not going to ever replace a PC, but they're doing a lot of things to attempt that. You can browse the internet on them now. You can do their Bluetooth, you can do all these things that you would normally do on a PC. They're starting to create this, very gray, not a fine border between them. So no console will ever replace, well, I'm not going to say that actually, but no console, should ever replace the PC's control set, but, it's who's to say that they can't create some Bluetooth, just connect a mouse and keyboard to your PlayStation 5 and you can play it like a PC. So, I think that we're going to see these things merge more and more because you get a lot of advantages from a PC that consoles don't, and the other way around. The more that both can do what each other does, the better it's going to be, and I think that's the direction it's been going in.
And that's why I definitely would say a conclusive statement would be that I hope that that all companies continue to push into the realm of bringing the console closer to the PC and the PC closer to the console, but I just hope that they don't force anything for EverQuest Next. Just based on what we talked about here, it sounded like people were implying that this was potentially an occurrence that could happen. So I'm
the one positive that I see with doing both, and that I would hope, I don't know if it'd be technically able to do so, but just opening up the player base, the number of players, because what you see so often in MMOs a lot of times is you just lose players and then it becomes so barren at times that if you can somehow pull in not only the PC but also the millions that play PS4 and Xbox, if you're able to put them all on the same server, I don't know if that's technically possible again, but that's one positive I see there, just their reach extending.
Well, right now the issue would be transferring the UI from one to the other. It would be obviously have to be completely new UI, and then making sure that the gameplay, even if they're on one server, then obviously the gameplay doesn't need to be that similar. It could be a whole new game essentially, but that seems like almost potentially too much work. I don't know if that would be something that they would be willing to like invest in, to make such a drastic change or to the UI to fit it on, controller versus mouse and keyboard for an in-depth MMO.
Do you guys think the idea that sometimes gets floated around, I think maybe has been mentioned, of dumbing down of the MMO for consoles, do you think that's legitimate?
Oh yeah, right now it is.
Now that we kind of talk about it a little bit, I actually would kind of want to play Landmark with a Wiimote and nunchuck. That would actually be a lot of fun, and I feel like it'd be a lot more intuitive, at least for some parts of it, in terms of just trying to, move things around the screen and do whatever I need to do.
It's all about that Microsoft HoloLens.
I don't know about that.
I just like to poke you.
Let's not go down that road again. We did that last week. Anyway. Oh, geez. So, I guess, did anybody have anything else they wanted to say on the subject of, consoles, mobile, other platforms for, I guess the one thing why I don't think the PS4 is so bad for an MMO is that you've got that touchpad in the middle. So there's a lot of stuff that you can kind of do the mouse functionality that you would need it for on there instead of, just having to do it with the joysticks in one way or another. But that's all I got.
There is something we kind of touched on that I'm wondering about your guys' thoughts, specifically to Next, because we're a Landmark Next show. How far you would be happy with them pushing functions of, say, Next into a mobile version or a Facebook, some sort of web version, allowing progress, none at all.
I mean, I'd love that, but based on what I've seen from the community, I'm just gonna throw this out there because I say what I see. I feel like I've observed that the community in Landmark had really negative reactions to any sort of outside of the specific game implementation of progression. Like I remember, with Twitch, there were a lot of scenarios where they did not like, and they really got pissed about that happening. So I like it personally as somebody who is very in tune with the craziness of the internet and social media and mobile apps and whatnot. But I think that I've observed that the traditional MMO RPG gamer might not be happy about that. I'm guessing.
I wanted to say really quick, the one thing that is going to be the main concern anytime you're doing any type of cross-platform game is if you're making a game that has competitive play, which we know for a fact, EverQuest Next, the goal of the game is going to be competing for resources of all different types, and they may be diplomatic resources and whatever, but players are going to be competing against one another for resources, using NPCs to do so and whatnot, maybe directly in PvP. If you're going cross-platform or porting to a mobile device or anything like that, it has to be an even playing field. In other words, you're going to get extreme backlash. And Daybreak has a past history of wanting to always cater towards their player base as much as possible and keeping the communities happy. So I see. I don't see them trying to take games and fully port them to like a Facebook or a mobile or something lesser, it's one thing to port to PS4 or Xbox. It's a whole nother thing to port to, something that's not even a PC. Because, consoles today are made with like PC parts pretty much. So they're computers. It's not like, a mobile device is a totally different type of, device completely.
Yeah. Though I kind of think about something that was attempted, and I really don't know exactly how well it turned out, was the Dust expansion or addition to the EVE universe, where you were able to play some sort of tactical third-person shooter sort of thing on console, while the main, spaceship boogie whatever's going on in space. And you're just trying to do your job as a soldier on the field and hope that some random shot from space doesn't come down and blast you and everybody else in like a 5-kilometer radius because they just got hit with the space nuke or something. So I don't really know. I didn't actually play it, but I thought it was a really cool idea that you could have one set of people playing on a device that's more appropriate for them, and another set of people that are supporting them on a different device in a way that may actually be pretty damn meaningful. If anybody's actually a regular EVE player, definitely let us know how it went, because I totally stopped playing in 2007.
Yeah,
I've played Eve fairly recently, and I played it some after they tried the integration with Dust, and that would be an example of integrating two different types of systems, and it actually, a lot of things about it worked pretty well. They wound up, they're going to wind up trying, some other things, but that has more to do with I don't know if it's really game design or what. I know they have some other irons in the fire, but it was pretty amazing what they were able to pull off as far as linking a PS4 network system with their server system in Eve. They also have an app, for phones for Eve that works really well, and there's all kinds of things that you can manipulate and do inside the game from that phone. Like, for example, market-driven things. You can buy and sell things, stuff like that. That'd be really handy to be able to do something like that from, a landmark perspective or an EQN perspective. If you've got, stuff that you're selling or putting up for sale. If there's I don't know. I don't know what sort of systems that they're looking at specifically, but if they could think of ways to manipulate some of those systems from outside the server network from the phone app, that would be awesome. I think that would be really cool. It works really well for Eve.
Well, like utility seems that's actually I think a good midway point. Like the concept of allowing utility to be controlled through like some sort of mobile device. Devents actually mentioned in chat, which I saw. He said like the ability to pay your claim upkeep, things that anybody can do and are specifically like kind of trivial or menial things to do in the game, although nobody can seem to remember to do it. But like having those kinds of very accessible, like easy yet like easy to forget type of things, like you just said, auction house stuff, maybe your claim upkeep, maybe even like what about something where you can like observe, I don't know what, obviously we don't know much about PvP in EverQuest Next, but like maybe like you can observe the way that the different races are taking over the lands, like they gave in that preview of Storybricks, like where you could see that like different pieces, so you can like check like, oh, how's my server doing on this event, like those kinds of not game injecting, but just like utility type of things. I think could be really, really helpful for.
Well, you make a good point now. I remember from SOE Live when they were talking about a dynamic changing environment as far as the NPCs taking the forest. You remember that?
Yeah, exactly.
And you might be able to come up with some sort of a system where you logged out in a certain place and you'd like to be able to check and see what the current situation is, where they could present a map maybe, right, and say that area's been overrun or things like that.
Yeah, I definitely need like a bobblehead of Mr. Morgard, like with a lore book in his hand. I think that's like, I would have that as like my background on my phone. I
would totally have that.
It's you made a good point, Andrew, and it would be cool to see something like that where it's almost this, because this, unlike other MMOs, is getting to the point where things aren't the way they were when you left. Like other MMOs where you logged out, all your progression basically was based on where you were. Like modern MMOs, especially World of Warcraft and stuff, there's so much instance that there's nothing happens when you're gone for the most part. So having, for a game like EverQuest Next that's planning to have, if you don't log in for a week, you may log back in and have no idea what's going on in the world. So I see, some type of mobile app almost being essential to tracking what's happening in the game. in case some like a big war starts or something, and something that you're concerned about, you're going to want to know to be able to log back in and participate in that. So I think that would be really cool to see. Maybe Rosong, they have some app for Rosong where you've got some sort of, it's updates, even when you're offline for things that are happening relevant to things that you've built interest in, and it
wouldn't it be interesting if Rosong every once in a while, misdirected you to your phone app and said, "Oh wow, you better do something here. Things are getting out of hand." And
so trolly. Morgard's in here. Why are you giving him these ideas?
Actually,
phone trolling.
Something that I think would be kind of cool is maybe you do want it to give you a notification when your place is under attack, or when there's things kind of getting close, when there's a camp nearby. So without logging into the game, you can actually hire guards, hire people to go to your area, guard the perimeter or whatever, and not necessarily players, possibly NPCs. And this is something that you're doing. You're at work, you see, oh crap, there's a bunch of kobolds that are about to knock my place down if I don't do something about it. So you just spend like 200 of your characters in-game gold or whatever. And
I was just going to say, you could make it based on like a station cash type of thing, make them mercenaries, right?
That's true. Definitely.
I need to get a mercenary pack like now.
Besides the fact that we're like actually creating their mobile app right now, which is pretty awesome. Like I actually think that the like having just like the icon, I could see it now. Like the icon would be like just the Rosong. I mean, that in itself is like such a iconic piece of what EverQuest Next is, as far as we know, and it seems like such a great transition into a mobile app. I mean, damn.
I can already tell you, if there's like a Rosong app that does the things that we're saying when I'm offline, I will probably actually have a purpose for my phone once again.
Yeah, when I bring up mobile, I mean, I think there's a lot of uses. The one thing that I worry about, and any time you're talking about an MMO or a game and a mobile app, is progression. Would you be allowed character progression through a mobile app? The difficulty here is defining what actually is progression in Next, but
I wonder
I don't know what you guys think of that.
Okay.
I wonder if you could do, for instance, like some crafting progression from a phone app, something that isn't maybe quite as resource intensive, right?
That's one of the things I've compromised in my head. If you have the items on your person and your bank, whatever, being able to craft from an app, I could see that maybe.
Actually, I've got it. So you've got your whole heroic remote manager system, and basically where you log out, there's contextual options for what you do. If you logged your character out in a bad place, you can assign them the task of getting somewhere safe. Maybe your character actually goes to a town or something, or maybe and I'm saying this is in game, maybe they actually walk to a town, or maybe after enough time elapses they just kind of appear there, or they just find some place nearby and take shelter there. You could give them other commands if you've got a crafting guild sort of thing, and you've got a bunch of workstations. Assuming there's some sort of a shared labor system available, somebody they need your crafting expertise to make some piece of equipment, so you get a text message, so and so needs your assistance making this item. It's going to take 2 hours for you to help them build it, but once it's finished, it's going to get all of your quality and everything. And that's something you can just be managing your crafting. I could see people actually owning multiple accounts and being a crafting tycoon and just playing it on their mobile device.
They do that. They do that in Eve big time. There are people with several accounts, and all they do is craft.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing that you're saying that's really interesting is in Eve you had a thing called Call to Arms, and they set their phone app functionality up to where if you were in a corporation or a guild, in this case, and something was going down and you needed to get everybody together, for like, say for instance, for one of these events that they talk about scheduling, right? Then you could send out a call to arms through the app, like you say, text people, message people. That would be really handy and useful.
Yeah.
functionality for a phone app.
You know, to kind of bring in what Phantom's question was into what we're talking about now, and then kind of what we even talked about a little bit before, I guess, to really just bring this all together. When it comes to a phone app, I want to all right, when it comes to a next gen MMO, could you really should we really be setting limits on the possibilities? I don't think so. You know, like I know a lot of people I think would argue against the ability to have it on the phone app that gives you progression, but at the same time, I don't think that's fair to the concept of next gen. I feel like next gen should include like all of the things at the moment that are really prevalent in society and in culture, in the masses of gaming. And I would say that a lot of people really believe in. A lot of people really use their phones or have a smartphone, or have, you know, even if there was a way that you can like get to it online, as long as they give everybody an ability to log in through some method that almost, you know, either a browser but still have it go to the phone. I think that's amazing. But I'm thinking now, like, we talked about this, I think, even in the chat beforehand. The mobile market right now is the biggest market in gaming. And besides, in my opinion, esports as well has done a really great job. But besides esports, I think that mobile gaming has really put the concept of gamers into a social, like a widespread social environment where I think they said like 92% of gamers, or 92% of the U.S. is gamers, and I pulled that number off of a statistic that I saw a while ago. I could be right or could be wrong, but. With that being said, the biggest game in mobile is a game called Clash of Clans, I think.
Yeah.
Right. And that game has like this there's this way that you play the game where basically you log in, and it's a lot of like time-based ability. So like you like do something, and then you can't do something else for like 30 minutes on that piece. So you upgrade your troops, whatever, blah blah blah. Go to the next thing, and you just kind of like by consistently logging into this app, you do a lot of you can progress through that way. So, you know, considering what the most popular things are in mobile gaming, considering that mobile gaming is the most popular form of gaming today in our society, you know, like, do you guys think that like that method that currently exists as the number one mobile game, do you think that style of progression could work in a next gen MMO? That was an earful, huh?
I liked the points you started with, but towards the end, like, I think that it's hard to say that mobile gaming is the most popular. Like, yeah, the most people might do it, but if you're talking, I kind of want to argue the point that maybe, you know, well, I don't want to argue the point, but I just want to bring up the thought that maybe, you know, mobile gaming isn't the most popular because it only costs a few dollars, you know, to play a game, whereas console gaming and PC gaming and all the stuff that requires going into it, all the overhead and buying the games and keeping up with it is way more expensive. So as for a per dollar value, I would say that mobile gaming still isn't quite, you know, in the up there as far as being the most popular. I mean, it's definitely rising, but
another way to put that is mobile gaming is very convenient. It's microtransactions, and it's right there in your pocket. You know, so if you need to kill a little time somewhere, boom, it's right there.
Well, when we're talking about like an individual game company, though, I'm pretty certain, like I'm 95% certain that the highest grossing game period is Clash of Clans. Like by like I think it's like 1 point. This is a real guess. This is a guess, but I'm pretty sure it's about accurate. It's like 1.8 billion, I think, for Clash of Clans, and I think League of Legends is like, which is one of the biggest. If not the biggest, one of the biggest MMOs, that is like 900 million. So it's almost double the profit per year. And number of players, I think, is higher too. So I guess it depends on your definition of popular. But I do understand what you're saying too, where revenue per user is potentially higher. But I mean, why would it be though if they're making double what, you know, League of Legends, which is the most popular PC, potentially the most popular PC game, is making? So I don't know. We'd have to do some more research, I think.
Well, I think we're going to start wrapping up sort of this topic. The one thing I want to finish with, I think from Columbus Nova perspective, this is probably a brilliant move, like low risk. We don't know what they paid, but get a chance to break into gaming, and most likely, if it fails, they can probably piece out parts and license certain things, and it breaks even. So, anyways,
Before you say anything, should we? Morgard's about to leave, and I heard it's his birthday. Should we? Should we sing him
I
happy
thought he had
birthday?
already logged off. Yeah.
Oh damn! I wanted to sing him happy birthday. I thought it'd be an amazing way to sign him off. Anyway,
Well, you can sing happy birthday. I don't know that I'm a singer, but
I imagine the next thing Gio's gonna say after happy birthday is Mr. Lore Guy. So yeah, you can see that for your own, on your own time there, buddy. But do link us the YouTube channel or the video of it anyway.
yeah, he's already left us. We'll have to do it next year.
Yeah, one tiny last thought I want to say on mobile. If there was some way to make like an FTL clone of the ship trying to escape from the Bastion, the fall of Bastion, and going all the way across, and having to fight things and make decisions along the way, that would be awesome. Even if it's only like one or two jumps essentially in terms of the size and scale relative to FTL. I would love to play. I would play the hell out of that as a mobile game. That would be super, super fun.
Okay, so moving on, part of the reason for our title, I think some of the things we've discussed internally, maybe not on the show, is some of the, I don't know how to exactly put it, the unrest, yes, that the community seems to be having.
Which is also an EQ dungeon.
Well, the big reason that I think it came up this week was just the patch and a lot of the negative sort of reactions listed on the forums to the patch that are becoming more and more clear. I think SOG had, I forget the quote. Is it still up here? There was someone in chat that had a very to the point quote that said, what did it say? Do you guys remember? Someone help me out.
I'm looking it up. Hang on.
But while you're looking that up, I'll just say, I think that the one big thing I noticed this with the unrest, just looking at the forums, following the workshop show, it seemed like for the first time people were not really happy with the textures and things they put in for the workshop to support Kino. So I saw a lot of the big name builders that weren't happy with that nothing blended and the colors looked really weird and stuff. So that was the first time I saw people say, hey, this is not what we want to build in. So that was an interesting point. I thought, I don't know, would be interesting to talk about.
Okay, I found the forum post. It was like the second or third posting on the patch thread, and it said, wake me up when you guys add something of note. Okay, thanks, bye.
Yeah, I don't know. That's pretty rude, actually. This is definitely a lot of stuff. It's not that we're only allowed to build Kinos with these materials. These materials are supplemental to what we already have to enhance something that looks more like what they have in the art. I actually like the new textures quite a bit. I like the depth of them quite a bit. The stones, the bump mapping on it, it actually looks like it's got grooves in it instead of something that you have to do voxelmancy to establish, essentially. So it looks a lot better. I really like that they've actually upgraded that part, and they're pushing the textures in a much better direction. So to that extent, I like them. They're showing improvement on the things. The only complaint I have is that we don't get the reverse diagonal on the wood. That is it. That's the one thing. Give me the opposite direction diagonal, and I'm a happy man. That's that's a small thing.
I'm remembering too from looking through the forum thread, the one thing that I come away with, I saw a lot of comments against, they're not putting much in this patch and whatever, and Neuro was saying stuff that reminded me, one thing that's important to remember is, this was a patch, following another patch that got delayed a little bit, so it's they literally had, a week turnaround since their last one, so I don't know why people would be expecting, a big chunk literally 7 days later, so... or 8 days later, I guess.
Yeah, I think we all have seen sort of the forums taking kind of a negative. I hardly ever go to them because it always ends up in some sort of bitch fest, basically. But the thing that stuck out to me, and the reason I wanted to bring this up this week, was just, I think there was a post that had some relevance. It basically said, hey, you guys promised us a bunch of stuff in December, and you said first of the year, and now we're in February. Where is all of this stuff? And they're not really talking about it, when it's going to get here. And I think the other thing that you mentioned, that now builders were also unhappy. It was like everyone was now unhappy. But that was more what I wanted to bring it up, is just, do you think, how far do you think they can keep pushing things back before people just sort of throw their hands up and say, I'll be back?
Well, to answer the first thing you said about the forums being negative, I feel like I would love to read the forums, but usually my head's too busy breaking through my desk when I'm at those forums. But of course, that's another story. I think that with this new change, there's potential that with this new change of their focus potential. Or let me rephrase. I don't want to say something wrong here. If they are using Daybreak as an opportunity to maybe push focus into EverQuest next, which isn't confirmed but could be a possibility, I think that we're probably going to see bigger, less patches, less significant patches, but bigger patches with more core gameplay in them. Whereas opposed to before, when I felt like they were still really heavy pushing the landmark train, it made more sense that they would consistently be trying to keep people updated with every little thing that they're throwing in. And this is just again an observation or maybe an opinion, definitely an opinion, but I'd like to see what you guys think about that.
My sense, like I said, watching Landmark Live, I get that sense too. All right, they've had a sea change. They've got a new parent company, and it seemed to me like the focus is gonna go to developing a system for EverQuest Next first, and then swinging it over to Landmark to tweak and to see how it works and this and that. And I fully expect some changes to the blueprint coming up here pretty soon related to that.
One thing that was really interesting, another thing that stood out to me a lot throughout all the different conversations I had about this over the week with different people, and talking about it in my stream that I was doing with H1Z1, is the fact that SOE Live will not happen this year in the same sense, or that that plan that they normally have been operating on for the last few years isn't there. So somebody had mentioned to me, I'm not sure if it was when I was talking to Loth earlier in the week, but we might see information come out, more information come out, piece by piece, a couple of things a month, than them holding a bunch of the cool stuff to reveal at SOE Live, because now there's not an SOE Live. So I'm kind of expecting, whether they do some campus events and reveal some stuff, or if they don't even do the campus events, I'm expecting to see more big chunk information. What we would consider big news, bigger than normal, might actually come out in pieces now throughout the year, rather than seeing this big dump hit at SOE Live, since SOE Live won't be there. So I thought that was, I can't remember who told it to me, but it was a really great point. And I don't know, do any of you guys see that happening?
E3, they're gonna do E3. They're gonna do probably, was it PAX Prime that's comes after what SOE Live used to be around?
Yeah.
So they'll just do it at conventions. They don't need their own convention to do it. The industry's already set up for big announcements.
It was funny though. Last year at E3, they had one computer with Landmark, which it makes sense. The game was.
They had 3 of them at the Nvidia booth outside, actually, and poor
I meant inside.
Pentapod was operating those and was just dead by the end.
I saw Margaret. What's her, Luperza? Yeah, I saw her inside, and I was roaming around. Happened to come across the Curse booth, and there was one computer, and I remember nobody knew what the game was at all, and I was sitting there building things, and at the time showing off microvoxels and whatnot, and it was actually kind of cool because people were really interested. Occasionally we'd get groups of 4 or 5 people coming around and looking, but they really didn't at that time put any effort into E3. So hopefully this year they do. I think that they would.
Yeah, I think they almost have to, because I think the reason they held back those events was because they had SOE Live, and they want they're putting on this big event. They want it to get sold out. They want people to buy into it. So they're gonna, keep all the information to themselves for their own event. So now that that's not there, I think they're gonna have to explore all these other avenues, the regular avenues other companies have been doing. They can't do the mini BlizzCon type thing that they've been doing for their own. So
that, or the company, the Columbus Nova is gonna be like, no, you're not gonna do what you used to do. You're gonna go big. You're gonna do it in some other location, and we're gonna call it this, and we're gonna hire DJs and musicians and all of that crap, and we're gonna make it a big media marketing event. Oh yeah, the fans can pay like twice as much as they used to get in or something. I could see them doing something like that, and you know what? People would pay twice as much to get in.
I mean, who knows? Maybe we can get like a hologram of Dave at like
hologram of his ponytail.
the R.I.P. No, but like maybe at FIT, what is it? FIT, we're doing it SOE Live. We can have we could hologram Dave and Terry or some group of people in, and just have them drop one bomb on us and then pour it out. No, nobody likes my idea.
Yeah, no, I thought someone else was gonna jump in there. I didn't want to just keep on going. But yeah, no, that various different funny things. Not SO anymore. It is daylight or Daybreak rather.
Well, we did as you know, I'm sure Neuro. I don't know what your involvement is in it, but the FIT we're doing at SOE Live is I think the name of the SOE Live event that's happening this year. In Vegas or whatever. That's you posted the Facebook link, didn't you?
Yeah, it's the name of it right now is Daybreak Game Company Live /Fanfare 2015. Oh, okay. However, the name and none of the details are finalized. They're working real hard on that. I'm super excited to see what they come up with. I'm already, definitely going to go to it. It should be a lot of fun.
After last year, I expect I hope that all of us that are here on this, and just all of us who are here in this channel right now, and all the rest of Theory Forge can make it, and everybody else who was there last year, because just because the devs aren't going to be there this time, don't necessarily mean that we can't.
Hey, wait a minute. Who says the devs aren't going to be there?
Well, potentially, just because the devs potentially aren't there, doing the same kind of thing. Like I think a lot of the draw for SOE Live was that. They expect these big bombs to be dropped, and of course there's like all the other games that aren't like EQ. I'm sure that they'll be there too, but I really hope that players don't get discouraged by the fact that this isn't going to be this knowledge bomb event, and more just come together for the community and be there so that we can help grow the start of EverQuest next, because
that's a good point. They could use the regular conventions, PAX Prime and E3 to make the big announcements, and then if there were in the early days, it was all done by the fans. Fanfare was just a fan thing, and they could go to something like that, and maybe be a little more relaxed about it, and whatnot, not feel under as near as much pressure as far as that sort of thing goes, to make the big announcements and to do that kind of stuff, and they could just goof around and drink with with fellow gamers and stuff.
One of the things I hope with being under new management, I guess, we always, I don't know if you'd seen interviews in the past with like Dave where he off cam or something to say something like, well, did legal clear that, or am I okay to talk about that? You never really knew if that was coming from Sony or if that was more internal, but if it was more from Sony, will they be allowed to talk more now? I don't know if you guys ever picked up on that on some interviews.
Well, yeah. I actually got reached out the PR department from I don't know if it was from Dave, like if it was the same PR department that they've had from when they were SOE, but for the first time a gentleman reached out to me by email, and so there's potentially like all sorts of new things, maybe legal, maybe PR. I don't know if it was new or not, but it was somebody who I had never interacted with before, so it was interesting.
Yeah, my interactions with the PR for SOE were mostly good. The only the bad thing I ever heard about it was when I did my interviews with Robert Lassen and Maxwell Drake. Like, I guess Sony didn't like that we did those and we didn't tell them. so yeah, that's understandable. So
I had that same experience with Voxel Farm. It was like, it was a year and a half ago. I don't remember. It was shortly after SOE Live, or when it was announced, and I had done an interview, and they pretty much said no. I could have released it anyways, but because I had already had the answers to all my questions. But it was, yeah. So I mean, I'm hopeful. Huh?
Good guy, Phantom.
Yeah, I mean, I actually did release it like a year later. At that point, it was completely irrelevant.
Kind of good guy, Phantom.
Irrelevant. Well, they gave me the okay, actually.
Oh, okay.
No, I mean, I am hopeful that, that it will allow them to speak more. And I'm not that they will, but I never really caught on who was holding them back in the first place. It might have been completely them, but
honestly, a lot of times I felt like nobody was holding them back.
Well, okay. There was the thing where, for the release date for when they had to go into open beta from the early access for Landmark, or not open beta, I'm sorry, closed beta from where it was at before. I guess it was the closed alpha, rather. That was a date that I feel like they had to set, and why marketing had to set a date was because the Sony Corporation probably required one before they would provide more funding for it. So if that was the case, then yes, they were definitely limited in the past because they had to make a decision and put an arbitrary date and move something into a phase when they might not have been ready to move it out of that phase because they had pressure from above. And I would think that now in this situation, maybe there would be different things that they have to negotiate, but it's mostly, are you hitting your profit margins, not trying to negotiate just to get funding for a project to actually get completed.
Well, I mean, either way, I think that they've, with whatever changes happen overall, and I think that they've always been a really decent, I think that they've been one of the better companies I've ever interacted with when it comes to giving information and connecting with their like not pseudo media, but media outlets. So kudos to them.
For being a bigger company too, a bigger publisher, the way they're interacting with fans, you don't normally get from the really big companies. It's almost like they're a mini developer at the same time, so they're in that sweet spot of size where they're not too big and not too small. So they have a lot of freedom, and it's kind of cool. This new acquisition might give them a lot more freedom to handle the game design side of things, of when they're releasing information and when they're doing things like this, more on their terms. So that would be a huge positive, I think, especially since they're pursuing this crazy avenue of open development. And with when everybody remembers when Alpha first came out and there was the NDA that got dropped like the day after it came out.
Yeah.
I wonder where that the NDA came, and maybe SOE never wanted to have that, but Sony did or something. Maybe they said, hey, well, this is like free advertisement, blah blah blah. I don't know. But
they probably just want to make sure the game wasn't a disgrace before they put it in everyone's hands, and make sure it actually ran properly and wasn't like horribly chunky. Because let me tell you, I've seen what it looks like when a voxel engine with terrain and nice deformations doesn't quite have all the features and doesn't quite have everything. It's a bad experience. It's a really bad experience. So I think they wanted to make sure we wouldn't have a bad experience before they finally gave the go ahead on it. I mean, I was totally anticipating a long NDA. That's why I did a live feature rant. Is like, it was just going to be a one episode thing, just shouting out all the features, and then like, okay, then I'll be under NDA and I can't talk about it anymore. And that totally didn't happen.
Has anyone noticed that Smedley's Twitter account's been more quiet lately? Do you think he's going to be a busy boy for a little while here?
who was it? Somebody in the chat earlier today said that, I think it was Pirate Oil maybe said, one thing that comes with more freedom is there's going to be more responsibility on the leadership, so
That's
Smith,
right.
Dave Georgeson, they're going to have to be a lot more accountable than they previously were because, this big company doesn't have any knowledge of the game industry, so they're going to say, hey, you're the experts, you tell us, what you're doing, so.
Yeah, I had that same thought, definitely. I think Smedley's going to be a little busier than he's used to being for a little while.
One thing that I haven't really heard much about, which is maybe this is common information for everybody. Did they move their office?
No, they didn't move their office. They stripped all the branding off, and they're going to put the stuff back on. You could drive by there, and it's the same people in the parking lot and everything. It's just they just removed the branding. I don't think they're going to move from that location. If anything, they're probably, if the building number 4 isn't occupied by another company, they might just buy it up and go back to having the 4 buildings instead of the 3 they have right now.
Where's the parent company headquartered at?
Columbus Nova?
Yeah.
San Fran in New York.
Oh.
I think.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
right.
mostly New York, I think, but
I read that. Well, I'm glad because I was kind of bummed out. I thought that maybe they might move their offices, but still like only 15-minute drive from me. Yeah.
That's just another evidence to me that this company is more of just an investor. They're not trying to put their hands into the middle of the mix. They bought this asset and they're going to contribute financially, but they're going to let the experts do what they do and not try to mess with things too much.
Oil, I was actually wondering about what's going to happen with the Austin, Texas office. I was actually thinking they're going to do the opposite, consolidate that office to the San Diego location, just move everybody over. I don't really know necessarily the history of how that particular location came about, but I think all they really do right now is DCUO and maybe something with Dragon's Profit.
I thought I remembered something from SOE Live about, don't they have something related to the actual IP is over there, that's why they're there? They have people that come in, I don't even know.
That could be.
Seems like I remember somebody at SOE Live, one of the developers, saying that's why they were over there, because I think I asked, I can't remember.
The other thing I hope gets expanded with new owners is marketing, just actually seeing more stuff out there, advertisement.
Yeah, that's I was hoping that I mean, I don't know what it is, but I don't know what it is that stopped them from doing this like at some point, but I hope that they start to like really push on Twitch again. Like I think Twitch is such an invaluable resource, and I feel like they really I feel like they stopped like the big push that happened in the beginning with the Insider program. I feel like things have been a lot more quiet lately for the Twitch streamers who wanted to support this game. So I hope that like I said, somebody reached out to me from their PR department, which was really awesome, and I hope that's
all the insiders got that email actually.
Oh, okay, there, perfect. Well, I hope that this is like something that signifies something good for us.
And I know that they definitely haven't given up on Twitch because they were getting really good viewership numbers the first and second week that H1Z1 launched. I mean, really good. They were for 2 or 3 days. They were the number 1 game on Twitch.
Over 200K.
Yeah.
Points.
Yeah.
That's not uncommon for a new game, but it definitely is. It goes to show them, hopefully, that like it's really a good investment of their time and money for marketing. So.
Well, yeah, that and that helped drive the presence on Steam. They're still in the top 5, on Steam's hot list, and they stayed in the top 3 for like 2 or 3 weeks at least.
One thing that do we have? Does anybody else want to say anything about the marketing for it? Because I actually have a new topic I'd like to talk about, if that's okay.
Go for it.
Well, since we have Andrew in here, for those of you guys who didn't catch this in the beginning, Andrew is a wonderful musician, makes lots of great music, focusing, I believe, still on still on game sound. If
I'm trying to move into game.
Okay.
soundtrack type things. In the past, it's been podcast work and television work. I'd also like to move into some film type work, but at any rate.
Well, because we have you here, and because you're such a wonderful musician, who I've had the pleasure of hearing some of your great game soundtracks. With the future of MMOs, the next gen MMOs, sound. I mean, I would like to see sound evolve into something as well. We talk a lot about the combat progression. We talk a lot about procedural worlds. We talk a lot about MMVR, but we don't really talk too much about sound and the world of sound inside of MMOs. And one thing that I've been seeing more recently in MMOs, maybe it's because I don't know if it is new, but I've been noticing it, is the ability to create, to play instruments in the game and create music. So like games like ArcAge and Guild Wars 2, you can pick up a lute, pick up a flute, pick up a jazz guitar. I don't know, I made that one up. But you can pick up these instruments and you can kind of like using a MIDI controller, which if you guys don't know, a MIDI controller is like a keyboard that connects to your computer, or many other things. And you can actually sequence sound that goes into the game, and then you play, your character plays these songs. Now they've been really primitive at the moment. Like usually they're kind of like just one music sample. It's like one guitar string for each note, and then it kind of sounds like choppy and whatnot. It's always kind of been really just really bland and boring. What, as a musician, Andoran, and as somebody who looks forward to playing EverQuest next, with this concept, do you have any ideas or any wants that you see for that kind of integration for music and MIDI controllers?
We definitely in the chat you can see them talking about Lord of the Rings Online. It really broke a lot of ground as far as that kind of thing goes. I think in the near term, I know we've talked about it before, as far as development on EQN and Landmark. I think probably that it's going to be relegated to a back burner type situation for now too. That they're going to be working on core gameplay concepts and systems and whatnot. But it's something I'm still really interested in. I really like the idea of we've talked about things like having your own soundtracks, as far as like on your claim and Landmark, if you have if you have a dungeon that you've set up and you set up the rules for your dungeon, and you've got the different mobs in your dungeon, it should be really cool if you could set up the music for your dungeon too, and things like that. I think that would be a great idea. As far as like new systems, as far as being able to play an instrument and having it, sound decent in a game, I haven't heard much about that lately. That would have to be based on, possibly having access to, WAV files in the game files, and being able to trigger those. And I just haven't heard about, any sort of real development going on in that direction right now.
The most important question is, if I asked you to be in my band, would you be in my band?
We're getting the band together.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I got my keyboard right here, man. You got one too.
It's interesting about the music thing, because it's not, like Lord of the Rings Online was doing some stuff, but it's kind of like just this past week they revealed for anybody that follows MOBAs, League of Legends, they introduced a legendary skin for one of their characters, Sona, that's like a musical based, and she actually, this ultimate skin, you can actually switch the skin mid-game, and it'll actually change the sound for your entire team, like the actual soundtrack playing for the team. So it was kind of interesting, because it was one of the first instances I'd seen where one player can actually, have an effect on other players' musical experience in the game. So I thought that was an interesting thing, on the topic of music. I wonder, depending on if that's successful, and, that's one way you can do it, if they find ways to start doing that for games where, EverQuest, the Bard has always been a very famous and beloved class. Smedley, that's his class actually too. So it would be nice to see maybe some of that type of stuff filter where, whoever's the Bard can, affect the entire environment in their local thing with playing music, all kinds of things like that, where it's not just a status effect, but you're actually changing the live sound happening for all the players.
That'd be awesome and pretty immersive too, to be able to do something like that.
Well, there is, just for all of you guys who aren't musically inclined or don't know much about electronic music production, when I said before a MIDI controller, right? They do have things like keyboards, but that doesn't, there's MIDI controllers that are guitars that have, like buttons instead of strings. They have MIDI controllers that are like wind type instruments. I mean, there's a lot of different MIDI controllers that you can get. So, what you guys are talking about right now, imagine like, okay, so you can go into a raid as a bard and you can have your pre-made music or somebody else made your music, but imagine how sick it would be, especially since Landmark and EverQuest Next have more skill-based combat. Like, you're going in and you're just like jamming out, like, maybe you can put it on a follow or have some sort of pathing. I don't know. That would be really difficult. I don't know how they would do that, but to be able to like live play and maybe have to hit certain chords, like for those real musicians out there, to have your MIDI controller really interact with the game. I mean, that is next gen to me. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I noticed someone made a comment in the chat talking about one of the main problems would be a copyright type situation. In this specific instance, I don't think that applies. I mean, Lord of the Rings Online, I've seen so many concerts where people are playing, covers of all kinds of other songs. But the idea is that they're not making, revenue from that. There's just something that they're doing, right? And so that wouldn't be a problem or an issue as far as that goes. I mean, you're just talking about functionality where you could have instruments in the game that you could physically manipulate, and as far as being able to choose your own music, now that might be. I mean, if they're talking about licensing already completed songs and things like that, that's a different matter. I might have misunderstood his
the reason I brought up Sona in League of Legends too is because the players aren't controlling the actual notes of the music and everything. They basically have some preset tracks, and the player's just choosing, the mood basically by setting that. So I would like to see, that as a, maybe not bards have to develop their own music, but having that, pre-created music where maybe they can, depending, and Andrew, and you would know this too, be able to answer this question as somebody who mixes music, but creating tracks for different instruments that no matter when you kick it on and off, it's going to blend with other instruments. So like if you have multiple people singing and they're kicking on things, it's going to sound good together, but also these instruments, the pieces can sound good like as a solo, as one thing. I don't know if you could answer that.
They'd have to have pre-canned passages for something like that, but yeah, that would work.
That's I don't mean to cut you off, but that's actually what I was thinking about, is if they do something like that where you have to learn or collect or otherwise passages like things in 4/4, 3/4, even maybe 5/4 or 7/8 or some of the less common ones. And the way you play music is that everybody who's performing it, they get the downbeat of the 1 2 3 4, and you have to basically use the timing of that and sync up your different segments to actually perform, and so that way it's synchronous for everybody.
What about having this would be interesting, having a little auxiliary toolbar that was like Guitar Hero, where you had the little dots moving along, turn it into a mini game.
There we go.
That would be a lot of fun.
We talk about this. What comes to my mind is adding in creating music with linking and triggering. I can just imagine having some kick-ass show, and at the end, fireworks exploding and stuff blowing up all around you, or you hit a certain note or a certain part, and something crazy happens.
That's it. We're all in a band. It's automatically happening right now. So everybody pick your instrument,
in the sky.
And we're gonna set a show.
My instrument is actually going to be the Pinball Brawl Arena, and we'll just put different notes on the different bumpers.
And you could incorporate, you can do light shows, right? You could have just like a big background and you're playing music, linking, triggering in.
Has somebody done like a nightclub using linking and triggering yet? I haven't seen that in Landmark, but yeah, totally.
I mean, Dave's place had that dance floor.
Well, I'm saying with linking and triggering, where like there are light shows, like Phantom's implying, like maybe like you can set. I don't know how that would be possible. Set like a BPM or something, and then the lights kind of manipulate depending on the BPM. That'd be pretty sweet. Beats per minute is BPM.
A beat matcher that works with a particle emitter. I could see something like that.
Yeah.
I think it'd also be pretty neat if they made. If they're going to make a bar to where you're actually playing some sort of music, do it on a proximity basis, like they're doing some of the, the voice chat right now, to where, the further away you are, the less of it you can hear, or if the battle gets really loud, then you can't hear it as much. It would just be another immersive type of thing. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, so and then of course I think when the last time that we spoke, a big topic of ours was procedural music. Of course the concept for we probably have a lot of new viewers who don't maybe know about this concept, but a big movement in the gaming world is procedural music, and what that means is
very much so, yeah.
Yeah, and if you want to explain that, Andrew, go ahead.
Just the idea of having the soundtrack evolve based on what you're doing. I know for a fact that Jeremy Soule has experimented with it. He keeps it under wraps, but as far as music for games is concerned, that's something that a lot of people have started trying on different levels, so that, like I said, it becomes even more immersive as far as the soundtrack being different every time you log in, just based on the things that you're doing.
Yeah, and I know there's a lot of MOBA hate, but League of Legends definitely already implementing that. They recently they didn't have it the last time we had you on, but now recently they've added the I don't know the specifics of it, but the way it essentially works the same way. So you have a 40-minute match, or 20 to 50-minute match, let's say, and depending on, I think, like how many people are in a certain area, how much damage is being done in certain areas, all these different things, maybe like how much time has gone through the game, all these different things and these different variables will change the actual music that you're hearing and the intensity of the music. And I'm going to tell you what, as somebody who plays that, I play it all the time, I totally feel that there's a huge difference between that and static music.
Absolutely there would be. And it would keep it from feeling canned. It's like something you need to turn down and ignore.
It's like one of those things when you don't have it, you don't really think about it, but once you have it, you can never go back.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely adds to it. Absolutely.
I don't know. Anything else for sound? What do you guys think? Any of the hosts? You guys have any ideas?
Leitmotifs from Wagnerian opera. I'll just say that.
I will say that over the last 3 or 4 weeks, I periodically update studio software, do things like that, and a trend that I've noticed that's just great. It's really great as far as music sound library software. Is that it's been trending for a little while now to what I would call these little boutique companies. Years and years ago, they started doing this with like guitar amplifiers. There were these guys that they were like electronics gurus and started building their own guitar amplifiers and using very high-end components, and they became a sought-after kind of thing to get these boutique amplifiers. They're starting to do it in sound libraries, and it's astounding some of what they're coming out with. The realism and the usability. What they'll do is that rather than try and create a huge library with all different kinds of instruments in it, they'll pick a few instruments, and they'll deep sample that, and it's fantastic. I picked up a couple of libraries recently that are just astounding, really amazing libraries.
So really quick, I just wanted to give a shout out, of course, to Twitch and Famous, a wonderful show by our friend Kremchek. He's rated us, and he's brought a whole slew of wonderful people with him. So, of course, welcome to the show, guys. My name is Giovanni, and we are here doing a show called Theory Forge with some of the most dedicated, awesome people I know when it comes to EverQuest Next. And of course, there are plenty of other dedicated and awesome people in the chat as well, and all over the place. We are a show that focuses primarily on EverQuest Next and Landmark, and we talk about lots of different things, mostly theory crafting. We just like to get together and get smelly about our MMOs. So, of course, welcome. Enjoy the show. If you guys have any questions, feel free to throw it in chat. Right now, we are talking about all sorts of different ideas in MMOs, but mostly focusing currently on music, as our guest Andoran is a wonderful musician who's getting himself started in the gaming world, specifically with music. So absolutely wonderful to have you guys, and we look forward to hearing your questions or just having you.
Yeah, and actually we are unfortunately at the end of our show.
I didn't even realize. Time flies.
Yeah, time flies. We're at 9 o'clock. Well, 9 o'clock my time. So that being said, I'm our normal sign out. I'm going to start with you, Andoran.
Just as far as things that are going on and all that. I've been working on some material for a possible EP. Boy, I'm getting an echo pretty bad. EP with a couple of different people that I've worked with over the past year. That's a lot of what I'm doing right now, other than just regular studio business. I would really like to continue on some of these, EverQuest projects. I'm just sort of, in a holding pattern, waiting to see how things, progress and shake down, especially with the buyout and all that, see how things go this year.
Hello, I am Bellix with 10 Ton Hammer, doing the 10 Ton Hammer thing. Ooh, that was loud. And I don't think that was mine. That wasn't me. So that's you, Ed. And doing EQ Hammer and 10 Ton Hammer. I've been writing a lot for EQ Hammer, a couple columns a week, as well as trying to keep things going on EQ Hammer. We kind of sort of know what we're doing now, as far as merging the site. It is going to transfer into 10 Ton Hammer, and we're also making some big changes to 10 Ton Hammer as far as the way the site looks and things like that. So it's going to be pretty interesting. We're going to expand the way we're doing things, and we're also looking into doing some things to help support us, because I don't know if everybody's been aware of Joystick and massively going down, and 10 Ton has also had its woes over the past year. We've had to see some great coworkers of mine go away, so we don't want that to keep happening, and we'd like to bring back the people that we want to see. So we're going to eventually get a supporter program going, so I'll have more info on that later. But thanks for coming, you guys, on the show, and everybody on the show, the other hosts. It's been great. You guys are always fun to talk with, and the chat is always amazing, so thank you guys for coming, and I'll see you in the next episode.
Yeah, thanks everybody for showing up. Sorry for all of you guys that just joined us with our last 3 minutes there. Yeah, nothing really new for me. Just same old, same old. Nexus is still there, and I'm still here. So, see y'all next week. Neuro? Are you, anyone else hear him?
He's just he's a statue right now.
So yeah, I managed to pull a Tanlin there. I don't know why the camera's frozen, but
I love how we still call it a Tanlin. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, I mean, he's the one who's notorious for it. I mean, they've got the longest talk show for EverQuest Next and Landmark. We can give that respect.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, been doing same old thing with content and creations. It was kind of a shortened episode last time, though. We ended up hanging around and chatting for a while, so it actually kind of went on anyway. Live feature rant is now live feature review, same time, different name. Only 1 hour, can run longer, but generally 1 hour is the target. And Dead Feature Rant is still a rant show. Still have our good friend here, the Reverend Kremchek, who gave us the raid as the co-host on the show there. Other than that, I work damn hard at my day job, and I do stuff with Who's Gaming Now on top of that. So I don't have too much time to do too much other stuff. So if you want to say what's up, hit me up on Twitter.
What is your day gig? I don't know that I've ever
Okay, so I actually am a community manager for the competition, creative sandbox multiplayer game called My Dream. We're actually going to be hitting Steam in a couple of weeks, and
cool.
I basically am going to be hurting the community as best as possible. It's going to be quite interesting. Up to you then, Gio.
Absolutely. All right. Well, my name is Giovanni. Of course, as you guys can see up and below, it says Visionary Viz Gaming. But I do have some news for you guys. I'm actually going to be changing a lot of stuff. There are some secrets and plenty of stuff that I can tell you guys. So if you guys didn't know, I guess I'll reveal here. I'm actually going to be rebranding the stream as Zenism, and there's a big reason for that. Mostly because I'm going to be largely incorporating music into my live stream, and my old record label, quote unquote, was called Zenism, and I have a trademark. So I'm just going to go with what I love and what I was. And so we're kind of bringing the best of both worlds, gaming and sound, together to give a brand new sort of live stream. So you guys can come to this channel, and you'll find me actually producing music live on using Ableton and using my brand new, or some of my new setup equipment that I have. And you can also come here for a stream that is predominantly focused on esports. So I do a lot of esports focused events, mostly playing League of Legends, and yeah, that's about it. We appreciate, of course, and big shout out, thank you to our buddy Kremchek for the raid. And before we all go, I know that nobody wants to do this except for me, but I really want to sing happy birthday to Morgard, and I think that we should all do it and then just like send it to him in an email. Come on.
Okay, but we got to do the Futurama one on 3.
The what?
1, 2,
well, I don't know
for
that
Futurama. One. What day is today? It's Morgard's birthday. What a day for a birthday. Now let's all eat some cake.
All right, I'm down with that. You guys remember that?
Yeah, no, that's it. I already did it. Send it.
Oh, damn. All right, whatever.
Nice.
Well,
we can give him an even shorter one. This is the birthday song. It is not very long.
All right, come on. What if we just say "Happy Birthday, Morgard" all at the same time? I think it'd be beautiful. Come on, he's gonna love it.
All right.
We have a musician with us. Damn it, we got to do this. Phantom Runaway. Alrighty, on the count of 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday, Morgan. Okay.
Oh, Lord.
All right. Anyway,
I'm doing
as I was saying, guys, thanks for stopping by. We are going to be rating a beautiful woman. She's an amazing friend to the stream. We love her very much, Baby Cannon. So I'm going to go ahead and throw that in the chat, and you can go ahead and check her out. She is playing Landmark, the game, and of course I will. I'm actually going to continue to stream. I'm going to be playing League of Legends. Not sure how many of you guys are into esports, but if you want to try to stick around for that as well. So we will get both of those going, and I hope that you guys enjoyed your time here, even if it was short-lived. We will see you guys next Friday for the next episode of Theory Forge.
Goodbye.